If you try to please everyone, you're going to end up pleasing nobody. This is Epic Thoughts. Hey, how you doing? Sorry you couldn't get through. Leave your name and your number, and I'll get right back to you. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Epic Thoughts. I am your boy, Rohmon, Esquire, and somber mood today. Somber. It depends on who you are and how you feel about the yesterday, being November 5th, 2024, election day. Depending on where you are in the world or where you're at in life or how you believe, you may feel somber today. You may feel joyous. Me, I'm shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little shocked. If you don't refer, here in America, November 5th, 2024 was election day. Another polarizing, and I use that word very loosely, polarizing. Another polarizing election between two polarizing candidates who couldn't be more opposite. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Another summer of insults slung and information given out with no true backing of whether we're hearing fact or fiction. We don't know if we're hearing lies or what, causing the American people to fight for people they've never spoken to stand 10 toes down on people that they have no chance of meeting in their personal life. But yet we lose relationships with family members and brothers over it. Has come to a turn on, we shot this morning at November 6th, so Wednesday morning. It's come to a tale of at least a end of a chapter. And the end of that chapter resulted in Donald Trump winning the election. And like I said, I'm shocked. I'm shocked because not because I thought Kamala Harris was going to win this election. I didn't really think she was going to win. I thought it was going to be a little bit more tight. It ended up being, in my opinion, it's kind of a landslide. Like, kind of. Not as close as the last two elections, right? The Hillary Clinton, the 2016 election with Clinton versus Trump, that was a monster to the very end. That was a good fight. 2020, Trump versus Biden. I found the results of that one kind of questionable myself. I'm not saying it was stolen or it was frauded. I just found the results very questionable because some things happened that night that I've never seen before. And not saying that it couldn't happen. There's just some weird stuff that happened 2020 where it made me go, that's weird, dude. Like, that's weird. So coming into this one, knowing what I feel like I know on 2020, I kind of thought the same thing because it looked like it was setting up for that, right? The setup and the evening of 20, which is why we didn't do a show last night. We didn't do a show last night because we did a show in 2020. I had all my friends on the show and we were posting the live results. And we looked at the results and was like, oh, Trump got it. Like it was clear he had won it. And we woke up the next morning and it was like, no, he didn't. Like, really? Like, all of a sudden you got millions of votes for Biden while we were sleeping? Like, that's how it looked. So that's why I never really pushed back on the theory that President Trump had about voter fraud, because you never saw it. Normally what you see when you look at the live results, they'll show you when a state is heading a certain direction, right? And you normally don't see a state flip overnight. That's actually doesn't happen. And in 2020, it happened for 3 states There were 3 states that looked like they were turning red. We did an extra hour on the show last election 2020, and we said, I remember at the end of the show, I was like, well, it looks like Trump's going to win because these 3 states, they're going this way. He's got 53% of the votes in these certain states. Unless something crazy happens, he may lose one of these states, but he wasn't going to lose all 3. We woke up the next morning and somewhere in the mist, they found some ballots and he lost all 3 of those states. That's why I don't give pushbacks, because for me, being just a party of just, I don't care. I really don't care, but I'm interested. It seemed weird. It just seemed weird. And so when we woke up in the next morning and the 3 states that we had projected, that CNN had projected, that the AP, the Associated Press, had projected, had turned blue, that was weird. And did not give us an answer of how it just flipped like that. Nah, bro. There's no way you can convince me that something weird didn't happen. So, with that being said, coming into this election, I was leery because it was the same thing for about a good hour and a half. Trump had a very solid lead on Vice President Harris. And it was we were down to 4 or 5 states. And out of the 4 or 5 states, I believe it was Georgia was early in that last hour or two. Georgia was amidst Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Arizona, Alaska, and Nevada. Those are the states that were still up in the air. At this point, Trump only needed like 3 of those states to turn his way. He actually needed 4. This was when Georgia was still not confirmed. He needed 4 or 5 of those states. Georgia confirmed, and it went right. So that shot him up to 247. And so I'm doing the numbers, and I was like, okay, if he gets this state, if he gets Michigan, and I believe it was Wisconsin, he gets Michigan and Wisconsin, it's a wrap. Because I think he eventually got Pennsylvania too. And I was all right. So if he gets Michigan and Wisconsin, it's wrap. But this was the same situation 2020. It was almost the same states. Like, all right, if he gets Michigan, it's a wrap. It was clear Kamala got Minnesota. That was going to be hers. And so I went to bed. I almost was like, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to wake up, and Pennsylvania going to flip. Michigan's going to flip. Arizona is going to flip, because I kind of thought Arizona would flip either way, because that was way too close at midnight. It was way too close. So because of all that, I didn't want to do a show yesterday because it made me feel stupid, because we're all looking at it like, oh, yeah, Trump got it. And the next day he didn't get it. And I was like, made me have to make a retraction. And I've only done 2 retractions hosting this podcast. And I don't want to do no more retractions. I don't have enough followers to be losing followers because I'm giving false information. So anyways, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast on Wednesday to discuss whatever results we got. And I woke up this morning and I was like, actually, I woke up at like 3 to go pee. And then I was like, should I look? Yeah, I look. And I looked, and there it was. The 40, is he 47th now? 48? He's in the 48th or 49th president of the United States is going to be president-elect Donald Trump. And once again, we're going to have a Donald Trump 4-year term. And I was shocked because the first person I heard it from was CNN. And I was like, that was weird to hear from CNN. But nonetheless, he is elected president. And I was like, man. And I started immediately thinking of some of my friends that just despise him. And I started thinking of some of my friends who just love him. And I was just like, wow, I hope such and such is okay, because she's going to hate the fact that he won the presidency. And I was like, oh, I know such and such is elevated because she loves him. So it's just one of those things where I was just kind of like, wow, this is happening. And I've had some time to kind of think this thing through. Hindsight about this whole thing is, I don't really get what the Democrats' plan was. Right? I don't get the plan. I don't understand what they were trying to do. Um, and I never did. I never did. Even in Vice President Harris's race, I spent the whole time thinking, what's the plan? Is what are we doing? Is the plan really just pushing identity politics? Like, are we really just pushing identity politics? Not really showing, what's the game plan. We're not sharing policy. She never really told us what the policy is. She just told us what the result of said policy would be. But she never got into details of what the policy was. In my mind, I was like, that's not enough to, at least for me, it wasn't enough to go, I'm confident that this plan was going to work, because there never was a plan. It was just, we're going to eliminate everything he did. But then in the 3.5 years that she been in the office as vice president, did what changes did we make that you want to keep? She couldn't tell us that. She did a sit down on 60 Minutes on her own side, on her own squad, and she wasn't able to give us a plan of what the first 100 days with her running the country. Somebody said, "Hey, but isn't this stuff that you're saying you want to change? Isn't that your camp? Isn't that your administration?" No, it was the other guys, and it was a lot of blaming, but no real plan, right? And then it was like, you remember when you used to go to high school and we used to vote for our ASB president, and then they would give us a lot of questions. They would give us a lot of, not questions, they would give us a lot of blank statements. And school lunch is going to be longer. Like what? We're going to have better dances. How? They're just going to be better. Like that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. It all kind of determine whether this is a good plan or not. And so that's how she ran this thing. And there was three actually. There's three statements that she said in her running this campaign that really kind of bugged me and rubbed me the wrong way. One was, on top of not having a solid plan. One was the debate that she did with Trump. I think where she missed it was, I think the political identity politics kind of messed her up. I think it messed up her campaign. And then just the overwhelming hate towards Trump kind of messed her up at the end, because they were doing this whole, they did the debate. And the debate wasn't, if you look at the debate and if you looked without the partisan glasses, if you just looked bipartisan, you could tell that wasn't a fair debate. It wasn't Trump versus Harris. It was Trump versus Harris versus the moderators versus, what was it, NBC, ABC. That's what it really, really was. And they're fact checking everything he ever said, but they never fact checked her once. And some things she said were flat out just not true, right? When she made a statement saying, nowhere in the world is an American soldier on a battlefield right now. Currently, there's no American soldier on a battlefield. I knew that wasn't true. You knew that wasn't true. You knew that wasn't true. Americans all over the country knew that wasn't true. And the funny thing, there's footage of a street. I don't know if you saw. There was a reel of actual American soldiers on a battlefield looking at the debate, hearing her say that statement, and the guy was, "Oh, who are we?" It was hilarious because everybody knew that wasn't accurate, and it wasn't fact checked. Did not fact check it. Some things Trump was saying we knew was true. We just didn't like the way he said it. And they fact checked him. Like, that was one. Two, the other thing that kind of pushed me to like, what are you doing? Was when she would promise working class Americans that she's going to make it affordable for working class Americans. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm like, aren't you in control of that? And can't you do something about that now? Like, you had the ear of Joe Biden. Again, where's Joe? Where Uncle Joe at? Like, has anybody seen him? During this time, we hadn't seen. I'm so. This is so weird, you guys. This is just not a weird time. We don't know where Uncle Joe has been. Like ever since they said he ain't gonna run for president, we've seen him like maybe twice in the media, and he's not allowed to speak no more. But where has he been at? Like, tell me, I need to know. But when she made the statement about the working class and making it more affordable for the working class, I was like, wait, that's just odd, because wouldn't that be something that you cared about now as the VP? Wouldn't you care about that now? So there's that. And then the other thing was that rally, dude. It was one of the last rallies she did. And someone screamed, Jesus is Lord at the rally. And she blurted back to them, you're at the wrong rally. That was funny. I thought that was funny. But then 2 days later, show up at a black church preaching. Like, I don't think people understand how bad that looked. Like, maybe I'm the only one that bothered by it, but for me, that was a bad look. That was a bad look. On top of you not having a plan. Now, let's talk about the other guy. People will give me pushback. So, well, Trump didn't have a plan. He had a plan. Was it a good plan? I'm going to say I don't know, because I don't fully understand his plan, right? The 25, and I'm not talking about Agenda 25 that the left are saying that he's running. That doesn't exist. Okay, he didn't say anything like that about reinstating different slavery organizations and all that other stuff. That was not in the plan. But when he talked about like tariffs for China, putting tariffs on foreign goods, like I'm like, okay, that's a plan. At least it's a policy in place to make you go, all right, okay. And it honestly made me look at, the Democrats like, so what you think of that? What's your pushback? He's racist. Okay, but he's talking about like putting tariffs. He's putting tariffs on different countries because he's racist. And I'm like, oh gosh. Like for me, I don't care about the American, like the general public, because it's very clear according to what I've been reading that we just, as a group of, as a people, as a nation, we don't read. Thank God for different things, but we just don't read. We don't study. We don't know what we know. There was just never a plan. He talked about tariffs. He talked about policies set in place to reconstruct the border, the 150 miles of border wall that he already made. Why he did what he did with DACA, why is he doing what he's doing with was it DEI, and just things of that nature, and how we're gonna fix some things up. And he's got a plan that he hasn't shared about California. Him and Newsom, I just don't get along. It was just the Democrats seem to push identity politics at the forefront, and they were banking on that to win them this election. And I think probably they thought, well, it worked for Obama, it'll work for Harris. But there's a difference between Obama and Harris, right? There's a very strong difference. And the difference is Obama had a plan. Obama and his plan wasn't the best plan. It wasn't the best plan. McCain had a better plan, in my opinion. He had a better campaign because he had better policies in place. But at least you can go, yeah, but Obama has a plan. Let's see what he can do. Okay. So I don't think identity politics was into effect. Well, it was, because I believe that the black vote really went to him just because of that, which is all right. But now it's got to be more than that, right? Like, we have to grow up and be like, I can't just vote for you because you're black. I can't just vote for you because you look like my mama. That's how a lot of black people approach this election. And even the numbers are still kind of massively, like they said 78% of black men voted for Kamala. 98% of black women voted for Kamala. So there was still high level identity politics, which is fine. It's not fine. It's not, because now we're voting based off of what we see, instead of what a person stands for, right? And the truth behind it, if you ask somebody what they stand for, everything that everybody's going to say is socially based, which, I get. Social atmosphere in political realm is a thing. It's there, it happens. But again, and I've said it many times on this show, Trump isn't all the way a Republican when it comes to social atmospheres. When it comes to social matters, Trump is not really Republican at all. He's not at all. You know, the one thing that, if you find out that they do agree, and they do agree, they're both pro-choice. Like, Trump has never stated that he's pro-life. Trump has always been pro-choice, along with Kamala. So they're both pro-choice. They both, Kamala is a little bit more egregious because of just what the party has decided to do, but they both, are for the alphabet people. They both push. They don't have the Democrats push the agenda a lot harder than Trump does, but Trump doesn't go against them. Women's rights and equal and reproductive rights, Trump has never made an attack on it, and he's in the office. And let's just keep it a buck. We're not talking about IUDs, which they try to bring up as a big part of the thing. And Trump was never really pushing against IUDs. He was just pushing against, like, let's just not call everything that has to do with women's reproductive care, which can be an argument, but he's never really pushed that stuff. So then where did so then we're pushing against, like, my point is, he socially, and that's what the Democrats kept doing. They kept driving home these social ideas, these social agendas, and saying that the other side is against. The other side may be against it, but the representative for the other side, which is Donald Trump, he never really was, like, pushed those things. He never really pushed those things. So it was like, socially, you're making a bad choice, because we think that Kamala is going to support us socially in what we believe and what people believe, or what the majority believe. And not even the election has shown us that it's not even a majority. It wasn't even close majority wise. Like, electoral college, was closer than the majority vote. Like, she got demolished, like a couple hundred million. So it wasn't even a matter of that. It was just a matter of I don't think there was a plan. I just don't think there was a plan. I'm saddened by this. I'm saddened that there wasn't a plan. I'm not saddened about her not being elected. I'm saddened that there wasn't a plan. Because I feel like Americans should have. I feel like we should have options. We should be able to use our brain to process. Is this what we want? Like, is this seriously what I want? And then, so there's a lot of people who went to the polls, or went to the polling places to cast their votes, and they're just looking at their form, and they're like, I mean, I see 7 choices here for president. I see 7, but there's only really 2 that I could choose from. It's either this guy who has been convicted of a crime. He is facing jail time. Now we don't know if he's even going to face that jail time, because he's now got a new job, ruler of the free country, and he's got a game plan. I think his game plan is, if it is going to work, if Trump's game plan does work, we might actually come out of some stuff in the next 4 years, which might actually help us. But, I get people just hate him because Jimmy Kimmel told you to hate him, because Jay-Z told you to hate him, because Taylor Swift told you to hate him, which in a nutshell is the most ridiculous reason to vote or not vote for somebody, because a celebrity endorsed him. It's just wild. And then you got the other side who just didn't have a plan other than, you're black, I'm black. Vote for me because you're black. I love gay people, so you should vote for me because I love gay people. And I guess we've done it for years. We've done it for years. There's always been, this person stands for these type of people and this person doesn't. And it should be about policies and plans. And how do they work as a leader? Do they fit what we're trying to do? Do they understand the battles that we face in America? And currently, in our current state, the left seems to be so far removed from those questions. They just seem so inept to answer those questions that it just became crazy. So I'm fact checking myself actually right now. The other crazy thing that's happened last night was the Senate flipped. That's big. Was it the Senate that flipped? The Senate flipped. So the Senate is not Republican. That's crazy. So to bring Trump in with a Republican Senate, and the House is kind of, Will Rawlins is losing in California right now, the House seat. Now, listen, it sounds like I'm a Democrat the way I'm sharing the information. I'm just looking at it from a bigger picture, how big this is, which is weird for California. California is in a weird place. I know. Let me just talk about California for a minute because this is where I live. I live in California, and California has I think we haven't gone red since like Reagan. You may want to fact check me, but we haven't gone red since Reagan, and we had some serious propositions on the ballot this year for Californians. We have some serious propositions on the ballot for Californians. One of them being handling of, because Newsom had this whole plan in place where we couldn't try you. It was a misdemeanor. It was basically a ticket if you stole anything under $950 or something like that, $950. So that's why you saw these videos of Californians of people walking in the stores and just clearing the shelves of sneakers and stuff like that. No, the guy who stole the iPhones, that's a felony. He got caught. But other places, people were walking out, and Gavin Newsom even had an interview where he was like, I was at Target and somebody just walked out the store with a TV, and I said, hey, stop. And he goes, we can't stop him. It's not a felony. It's just a ticket. So, to the point where stores are leaving California and all this other stuff. Well, they passed a proposition, overwhelmingly passed it, saying, no, now we're going to, this is a felony. Shoplifting is now shoplifting again, and higher jail time for drug traffickers, including especially those who slay fentanyl. And then now Will Rawlins is fighting for his life to keep the seat in the House and against Ken Cavert. And that's huge. Like, California is making some broad Republican type moves. But then when you look at the Electoral College from last night, California did not do well on the Republican side. So it's just a weird situation that we're in, that we just went from, now we're making all these California is. They're going right on so many things. But bro, Kamala won by over 2 billion votes. Over 2 billion votes. The Democrats slaughtered the electoral race for presidency. But the same people who voted her in, voted against all her homies' policies. And this is another big deal because she's from this state. She was a statesman of California. So I just find it fascinating. I found this whole last 2 days, or excuse me, especially yesterday. I found Tuesday very enlightening. What does that mean for us moving forward? God's in control. That's all it means. God's in control. I didn't see it turning out this way. The numbers are coming in and basically he killed her. He destroyed her in the electoral. Like he smoked Arizona. Trump smoked Arizona. He smoked Nevada. It's not even a factor. So I just God's in control, man. We gotta let him be in control. And you gotta go into next year going, listen, the country clearly gonna do what it does, right? We're gonna have good times, we're gonna have bad times, we're gonna have good things happen, we're gonna have bad things happen. And I feel like for a lot of people, myself included, we was heading somewhere before 2020 and COVID took a shot at us. And there's just still people out there that haven't really kind of recovered from COVID yet, you know? Haven't recovered from COVID, haven't recovered from 2020. It just kicked a lot of people's butt. And some people have been able to get back up, but they're still kind of wounded. It's funny when you see the wounds of the people still from COVID. Like I still got some bad battle scars from COVID. And I didn't realize how big it was until now. And as much as the world's trying to get back to normalcy, I remember saying during COVID on this show, like we're never going to see normal again. Like what we thought was normal, we're not going to see again. So with that being said, we have to kind of like make some major adjustments. You hear the phone in the back? I'm sorry. Sorry, y'all. This is prompt 2. Doors open. Somebody answered it. All right, cool. But we just this is what it is. And you got to do your work, man. You got to do the work for you. I think people were, and here's the thing about identity politics that we have to be careful of. If we fall for this junk, if we continue to fall for this, we're going to put ourselves in a damsel in distress type of scenario where we're going to need the candidate to rescue us. And the candidate can't rescue you. No man can, or a woman for this matter, could rescue you, right? And as much as we want people to think about us, I have some very harsh reels for you, some very harsh news for you. Nobody thinking about you. Like you're literally on your own. Everybody's got something that they're dealing with. Everybody's battling something. So you have to bank on you more than you bank on anybody else. And people are sitting here with identity politics thinking their party is going to help them. That party ain't going to help you. The party I'm associated with is never going to help me. They're never going to help me. They have great policies, but they're never going to help me. That's why I probably don't vote for them a lot. Because one, they're not going to get in office. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm an off party, but they're not going to rescue me. They're just a group of people who think like me. That's all it is. But let the rubber hit the road, bro. They ain't going to help me. I remember there was a time in my life when I lived in Oregon. I was extremely depressed. I never talk about this. I never talk about this at all, but I'm going to talk about it now. My first wife left. And I shouldn't say left because it's not like she abandoned me. My first marriage just ended bad. It didn't even end bad. It just ended. And it was one of those things I didn't realize that what I had until she left. And it was horrible. I was miserable. I had locked myself in my house. I was there for weeks. I only came out when I absolutely had to. Like when I absolutely had to is when I came out. I didn't come out for anything else or anybody else. Same clothes for days, put black curtains up. I was a mess. I was so bad. And I remember this guy came to the house and he wasn't like me. He wasn't black. He wasn't Christian. He was a totally different religion. I think he might have been not completely different religion. He was Christian based, but I think he was Lutheran. He wasn't Mormon. He may have been Seventh-day Evangelist, Seventh-day Evangelist. Oh God, I can't say it. He wasn't Christian, and he's at my door, and my first, her name was Jay. Well, I call her Jay. Jay had been gone for maybe a month and a half, and he came to the door and he was like, "Yo, I'm here to help you take your curtains down." And he came in, helped me take my curtains down, and we just cried. He just let me cry and let me talk and let me have my feelings. And then he shared with me something he was going through personally in his life that was almost equivalent. I'll share it because, it was so long ago. He shared with me that his wife was dying, and he had two little boys. They were 5 and 3 little boys. And he had to tell his sons that, hey, mom's got about 6 more months and then she's going to go to heaven. And that was so hard for him to have to tell his kids that. And me in the brink of losing my marriage, and then him on the brink of his marriage being taken from him. She had cancer, I think cervical. This is early 2000s. Oh my gosh, was that long ago? Was it 20 years ago? 20 years ago? 19, 18 years ago? And but I remember it was such an eye-opening thing to me because my Christian friends that were in that town knew I was going through it. The church I was working at, they knew I was going through it. And when I'm telling you limited access to me, like nobody called. The senior pastor at that time didn't check up on me, didn't come to the house. And I was like his right-hand man. He didn't check up on me, not once. I just sat there and just wallowed. And God had to send somebody that we wouldn't have really a true relationship with because of differences. And because of that person, they were able to start me on a process to get me out of this darkness. He helped me take my curtains down and let some light in my apartment. And not to say that life changed, and yay! It was hard for a season. It was hard for a very long time. And my point is that made me who I am. That's one of those situations, one of those in the Marvel universe that I work for. Is it canon? Anyways, it was one of those life-affecting, altering choices that kind of veered my life in a different direction. I see people differently now. I don't just connect with you because you're a Christian, because that clearly, when I was in my darkest moment, it meant nothing. Me being Christian didn't mean nothing to my Christian brothers and sisters at that time. It meant absolutely nothing. I could have killed myself. I could have taken a bunch of because I'm saying that because it was something I seriously thought about. I could have unearthed myself that day. And because no one was checking on me. Because the show had to go on. We have youth group. And then, I had my people take care of youth group. But no one checked to see if I'm good. We still got Sunday. But I'm in Oregon. My immediate family, my sisters and my mom and my dad, they're in SoCal. I'm outside of Portland. I'm right outside of Portland. I'm in the metro area. And I had to go through this by myself. And we do this all the time. They get in the pulpit and talk about how we're family and we're close and yada, yada, yada. Okay, but when you start going through it, you start realizing, well, who really there for you? This is one of the reasons why, wow, this tangent's turned. This is one of the reasons why I believe that most Christians kind of fall off and they don't really trust their Christian brothers and sisters, because when they go through stuff, they don't, a lot of Christians don't know what to say to them. So they keep their secular friends, because their secular friends at least show up. Dang. They do. I don't know how many times I've had life-altering situations and my secular friends showed up. They showed up. I remember first getting saved and I was 17. Had this, oh my goodness. And I think about it even more. I have room to even be more upset. 17 years old, and girlfriend I cared for more than anything. I loved her. Dumped me for my best friend, who was the Christian that, kind of kept taking me to church. They wanted to be together. They didn't think about how it was going to affect me. They were dating each other, and I was dating her at the same time. And then their conscience got the best of them, and they were like, "Well, you should probably break up with him." Yeah, I'll break up with him. And so she dumped me, and the Christian friend that was dating her, unbeknownst to me, was dating her. And when it happened, I remember calling my friend, telling him what happened. He came to my house. We used to have these drinks called Mystics. I think it was like a version of Snapple, or if it wasn't a version of Snapple, it was like a response to Snapple. These fruit drinks that came in these glass jars. He knew I loved those, so he brought me one. I got to vent to him and tear up and all kind of stuff. And he was just trying to be a friend, not knowing. I didn't find out 2 weeks later he was dating her the whole time. It's a cold game. And when I found that out, my life just shattered. And my thug homie Novell was like, "Yo, cuz, forget them girls." Didn't know Novell did not know Jesus. Seth and Novell, shout out. I don't know where y'all at. But I hope you guys give your life to God, because you totally needed to. I think they did, because the twins did. And the twins. So shout out to the twins. You know who you are. I found out that one of the twins' wives told me, "Yeah, they talk about you all the time. They watch your epic thoughts." I was like, crazy. So they're the other two people. Now, anyways, Novell, I hope you gave your life to, and Javon. Shout out to Novell and Javon. But yeah, Novell was like, "Man, forget them girls. Forget that dude, bro." They didn't know Jesus at all. And they was with me like every day to make sure I was good, make sure I was, it's hard to go through life alone when you got these battles. So when you have people that are there for you, it's just good. I say all that to say that's why identity politics don't work for me. You're not going to get me to vote for you because you're black, and you're not going to get me to vote for you because you're a Christian. I know a lot of Christians I wouldn't vote for. That sounds so awful to say when I came out of my mouth. I was like, dang. But I do. I know a lot of Christians I ain't going to vote for. Like, there's Christians that are like, can I count on you? No. No. No, you can't. You're bad with money. I'm not going to. No. To put together policy? Nah, son. I'm good. I'm good. Not all Christians are created equal. Like, praise the Lord. I'm glad you know who to go to. I just don't trust your decision-making skills. You're not a good leader. And no. So identity politics is not going to work with Ro Baby. And I encourage you to be the same. I encourage you to go, you know what? I'm going to this next election, 28, if we get to it. And I don't know. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. And I thought to myself this morning, I was like, this is probably the best thing that can happen, because we know in 2028, we're going to get a president that's nothing to do with any of these people. I mean, J.D. Vance might run, but we don't know J.D. Vance like that. And what we do know, or at least what I know, he's a pretty intelligent guy. So you're going to have to bring somebody. So the Democrats may have to come up with a plan. They're going to have a DNC, because I don't think had this election gone any other way, if Biden, and that's the other thing, if Biden had decided to drop out in January, then Vice President Harris would have to go through the DNC and win the DNC. And I just don't think she would have did it. I think there's other Democrats that would have just stomped her into the ground. I just don't see the plan. It just never made sense to me. This plan never made sense, is what I'm saying. I don't think she would have got through the DNC. She wouldn't have won the Democratic nomination. She just wouldn't want it. She's tried this so many times. Like, she tried in 2016, and her and Elizabeth Warren thought that they were the snot. And then here comes Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, ran them out the building. And then she tried in 2020, and Andrew Yang and Gabbard just made her look silly in debates. Like they just made her look silly. Biden like turned her into dust and then brought her in to be the VP. There was just no serious scenario she would have had that denomination. Excuse me. There's no scenario where she would have had the Democratic nomination. There's just outside of what happened. I don't see her getting that nomination. And who knows what would have happened. So I know in 28, we're going to get hopefully a quality person on one side, a quality person on the other side. And hopefully by this time, identity politics doesn't make a play, but it will, because we're Americans and we don't want to change. We just want you to change. So we just want to change. We want you to change. We don't want to get better. We want you to get better for us because we're already the best. That's how Americans think. So that had just destroyed my own hopeful thought. I hope that we get it to 28. No, we're not. We're still going to be there. They're going to tell us J.D. Vance was racist. He had no black friends when he lived in Billings, Montana. Because there was no black people there. Like, okay. Okay, whatever. It's just, we'll see. We'll see what the next 2 months look like. Bro, can you imagine if the Democrats pull something like a January 6th on their side? That'd be the most well-dressed the most well-dressed stance I've ever seen in my life. March on, oh God, that's gonna be ugly. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Anyways, heritageparkprod.com is the website. Yeah, man. Hey, did you write in Rohmon for president? Anybody? Did you? No? I was tempted for treasurer of California. There was only one person on the ballot for treasurer of California. And I was like, I wonder if I wrote my name in. What kind of shot I'd get? But I would have to get everyone to write it in. So, but I was tempted. I was like, I wonder what percentage my vote would have been if I just put in Rohmon Merchant for treasurer. Maybe I should run 2028. What you think? I've asked Carla several times, should I run? And she keeps saying, don't run. You can't run. I can't physically run, but I can run for president. That'd be interesting. Anyways, heritageparkprod.com is the website. Thanks for tuning in to Epic Thoughts. I know it's a Wednesday, but I thank you for getting on. Leave a review if you like the podcast. Leave a review if you don't like the podcast. Until the end of the year, the book Hidden Agenda is going to be available for free. If you type in agenda in the coupon code, you will get free. You have to pay for shipping, but you get the book for free. I think that's the only thing I got to endorse right now. So on that note, school. Man, our school community is getting better and better. It's getting stronger and stronger. And we want you to enjoy. I want to invite you to be part of the school community. So there's a link in the description to talk to you about school, join the school community. Join the school community, be part of what's going on at Heritage Park. Get all kind of cool little add-ons and things like that. But I'll see you there in the school community. And until then, have a blessed week. I'll see you next time. Peace. God bless.